This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan,
I eat so many hot dogs I can't remember where I've eaten them.
Sam Ballard Jr.,
You can bump me some places, but there are some places you can't do that.
Nick Rendo,
It worked as long as they were going in a straight
As
line.
long as you're going straight, yeah. I mean,
Scott Riggleman,
He definitely wiggled quite a bit before
it got loose and away it went.
Tim Riggleman,
Bars will be closing here in a little bit. You guy won't even be able to make last call.
and Josh Matthews.
I think that left front corner, that nose looks pretty heavily damaged.
Good evening, everybody. And for the 109th time, welcome to the RPM Podcast. I got a packed porch, kind of.
No, it's not.
If this is what you call a packed porch, I don't know.
We've had how many? Anyway.
So the smart ass you hear is Tizzy Riggleman. Next to Tizzy is
That's
Josh
just
Matthews. Taking my position in front of Josh is Tim Riggleman. I got Scott Riggleman. And I have Spotter. And, man, that seems to be a jack of all trades, a master of none, Brian Cranmer. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing tonight?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show, and it should be a good night, hopefully. And if it isn't, there's alcohol, right? We'll forget about this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
It is
Oh, it's
hot
good to
out
have
there,
you.
right, guys?
It is hot. It is hot. It's hot because we have hot pockets. It's hot. 'cause
You're,
it's like
you're supposed to say
95%.
how hot is it?
Oh, how hot is it, Josh?
Hotter than a spoon at Demi Lovato's house.
Too soon.
That's like an Amy Winehouse joke, man. She should have went to rehab. But she didn't want to go.
No sympathy.
Oh, man.
No sympathy here. That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway, before we go into it, I want to remind all our listeners that we're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more at the RPM Podcast, or use the hashtag the RPM Podcast to connect with all this madness we got going on here.
It's a lot of fun. We've taken a little time off. Mostly my fault. I'm going to take the blame for that. I had some side effects from my chemo meds, and it's been miserable for the last 2 weeks. That
It's
said,
something, Josh. We have a lot of new listeners, and I had a lot of people who didn't know you actually had cancer.
Actually, Mayor of Shimtown, he had we had a little thing going back and forth on Twitter, and he was asking when the next show was going to be. I was like, yeah, probably next week. We had to take a little off, And he was like, wait, I didn't even know you were sick, dude. Is there anything I can do? And really, really polite, really generous or genuine.
You're not used to that.
No, I'm not used to nice people. It's weird. I'm used to dealing with like Eric Brennan. Look, Axl Rose shows up more often and more on time than Eric Brennan. And if Scott at least got that.
Apparently, he's coming back in 2 weeks when I'm not here. So, hey, you guys are up for it.
Every time we get so close to having Eric Brennan back on, Josh kind of says something that pushes them back apart. They were talking pretty good for a while in our messenger we have going on.
I don't trust him anymore.
It all went to crap today, though.
I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go any further into that. I enjoy teasing and making fun of him, but then there are other things that should otherwise stay between me and him. And
Right.
we'll keep it that way. But I will admit I'm still a little ticked off at him for various things. But at least with Sam, if I get ticked off with you, I can be straight up with you, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And yeah, but we're not going to go down the Dr. Ruth side of things here.
Or he'll never come back
We're
on.
not.
Anyway, enough of that crap. Sam, something Scott pointed out a few minutes ago. You're now back at NCCCCCC.
I'm in UNCCC. Yes.
And I'm assuming you're in a different dorm, different room, all that, right? No, it is the same. I was saying it looks identical. It hasn't changed a bit other than that Untouchables poster.
So this is the Joey Bailey special right here for him being an asshole and making fun of my poster choices. And I had to have Kevin Costner to my right. So
Okay.
there's more posters and selections, but you don't want to tour this.
See, I thought you were going to have a different room, and then I was like, oh my God, it looks exactly the same.
Same.
It is the same.
Yeah, same.
I'd watch
Blankets and everything back there.
Same lonely room.
Okay.
Party for one.
All right. Anyway, now let's get into the actual show here. We wasted enough time on that.
Thank God.
NASCAR. Well, last weekend the Cup Series was off. I actually, in my stupid head, thought that everything was going to be taking a break for a weekend, which I was actually like, oh, good, I can, maybe get something done over the weekend. Instead, the trucks, and then we had Arca and Xfinity, and everything's been going on. I don't even know where to start. It was I think it was a really good this past weekend of racing. Road courses, a lot of excitement, a lot of action. Go ahead.
Well, they had a great finish at Michigan. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but Brett Moffitt pulled out a last lap slide job like routine, the final lap over Johnny Sauter, which was a great, fantastic race.
Yes.
And as Josh mentioned beforehand, they're racing in Canada this past weekend.
Canada?
And with that was another great weekend, and Noah Gragson ended up wrecking his teammate. And didn't win the damn race.
Go ahead, Sam.
I know. If you're going to wreck your teammate, you win the damn race. Plain and simple. My opinion.
I think it was stupid on both of their parts. I mean I know what each of them was trying for. One was trying to hold it real tight down low. The other's trying to stick his nose in there and force him up high, and it didn't work out. And they both should have given a little bit more, but they're also both going for a win. It was just stupid on both of their parts. That happened in the Xfinity race too. A couple guys sticking their nose in there, and then. I noticed, and you're talking about even like your road course guys that don't normally race in the series, but they bring them in, like Ambrose and kind of a thing, or when they would bring Scott Pruitt in to run a road course race, just because that's what he's good at, and they were talking about the guys sticking their nose in there, but he didn't have the position, and we had to talk about this. A couple weeks ago with the modifieds, and even relating to spotting and other such stuff about when you're clear, when you're not clear. And, I know that one of the rules has been, at least they've preached it for the modifieds and during our meetings in the pits before the race, that you have to be at his door. And I don't agree with that, because here's the thing. Scott and I both have the convex mirrors at least on our left side. I think Scott also has one on his right. Is that correct? You have an extra?
No, we're not allowed to have the one on the right anymore. I had to take it off.
But you did have it at one point. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
But my thing is, sometimes you're going to cut a little bit close. Sometimes you misjudge it. But I know that if a guy has his nose in there, I don't care if the track says he does or does not have that spot or that line. I know that if I turn hard left trying to block that, I'm going to end up going around because he's there. It's like trying to turn into a pole. It doesn't work, and it just bugs me that these announcers. Oh well, he didn't have. I was like, it doesn't matter. He stuck his nose in there. The guy shouldn't have turned all the way that hard left on him, and that's what caused the problem. It sucks. But you left that door open just enough for him to get in there, and that's what happens. So you got to hold that line lower earlier. Go ahead,
I have
Tim.
a question for the spotters in the room, Tim and Hot Pockets. As spotters, do you see moves like that coming? Do you talk to your drivers beforehand, or is it more like gloves off and have at it and you deal with it afterwards?
Go ahead, Hot Pockets.
You want me to, in that situation, the 4 has to know that's coming.
Right.
Earlier in the race, if you're a good spotter earlier in the race, that's how Noah took the lead from the 41. Same place, same move.
Right. Yeah.
And so the 4 has to know that's coming. And in my opinion on the whole situation, the only thing the 18 did wrong was he wrecked himself.
Right.
That's the only thing the 18 did wrong, because he's there all day. 4 gave him no room, but the only thing he did wrong was wreck himself.
So if you were spotting for the 4 truck going into that corner, what would you tell him, to stay high and give him room because he's going to come in there, or do you tell him to block?
I think I leave it up to him either to block or to try to do a crossover. Either one, whatever he's more comfortable with. Probably the crossover more than anything, because 18's obviously going to drive till he can't, make the corner, because that's what he did. So you want him to be on the look for the crossover more than anything, because it's years back, if you look back, that's how Blaney won, same way. He did the crossover in the same final corner. So that's just all things prior years watching races and studying film that you got to go over with your driver to be in that situation.
Brian, I think that's a great point. We've seen probably in the last like 5 or 6 years, especially in the stock car world, how fantastic these road course finishers really are. Just not even the trucks, the Cup Series, Xfinity guys. I mean, Justin Haley ended up winning the race this past weekend. Just to let you know, I know we didn't mention that earlier. But it kind of alludes to this. I mean, this is kind of like the equivalent to like a super speedway race now. You have guys that normally don't win races, though Justin Haley has won before. And I think it's pretty cool to see. Overall, but I kind of saw the move coming. I think it was Josh who mentioned the truck race, and I got a few texts from a few of my buddies about the truck race. I didn't see it live.
I think I just sent like a message to our little Facebook group messages that stupid idiot truck drivers or something like that, because it just looks stupid.
Right.
And other cars that had nothing to do with it got caught up in that crap. It's like somebody going 3 wide on the first lap of a factory stock race. Oops.
Well, Brian, do you think because that was a road course, do you think at that part of the road course itself, do you think the main spotter could see that corner, or do you think it might have been like a part-time spotter working that corner?
No, I've spotted Canada before. I've done that race, and like I can tell you right now, in that corner was the 18 was Rudy Fugle, and on the 4 was Marcus Richmond, both their crew chiefs. They were not in the infield. They were both not on the box. They were both in the stands in that section of the track. Wow. So are they regular spotters? No. But can they get the job done? Absolutely. You usually put your main spotter towards the back sections there where the real high speed is, because you can see more. But it was both their crew chiefs. I do know for a fact coming into that last corner, that was spotting for both of them.
With that, okay. Can they get the job done? Of course. Comment. It makes me think that he's saying spotting is easy. Did you hear that, Tim?
I hear it.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's easy, but I mean, at the end of the day, I've spotted for the 18 before with Noah and Rudy, and let me tell you something. At the end of the day, if Rudy wants to tell me to, be quiet, and he wants to say what he's going to say, I mean, obviously that's what he's going to do. He's the boss, and that's the same thing with Marcus Richmond on the 4 truck. So I'm just saying they're more than qualified to spot those 3 corners at Canada.
That's good. Now we had another road course going on. So we had Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Is that right, Sam?
That's correct.
Okay, and then we had Mud, Ohio, as Sam put it, Mid Ohio. Which I think IndyCar was at very recently. That was a couple weeks. That was probably 3 weeks ago. They were. Justin Allgaier won that race on the Xfinity side.
Mm-hmm. But I think we talked about that. They raced at Bristol. I mean, this is all of us playing catch up. Kyle Larson ended up winning that race at Bristol during the Xfinity side.
Well, I was going to say with the Mid Ohio. Why did Xfinity start at what is normally the finish line at Mid Ohio? Did anybody else notice that? Because that straightaway by the pits is normally the finish line, and they were using that as their start line for that race. And I wasn't sure if anybody heard as to why that was done. Okay, silence.
I can Google it.
What do you mean? Coming up the hill there? Coming up the hill, the pits are on the right side?
No. For Mid Ohio, the pits were on the left. And
okay, yeah.
You're thinking of Road America. Yeah,
Road America, yeah.
Yeah. So, but at Mid Ohio, it's I guess it's right after that carousel turn. You have the pits on the left and the flag stand midway through there. Then it would go up. They have that left-hander
to the keyhole.
Yeah.
And then up to the keyhole, yeah.
And then the normal starting line is down over there, and that's what IndyCar uses as the starting line, and then they finish by the pits there, and I wasn't sure what was going on there. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. Let's see.
Google has no information.
Yeah. Thank you for checking that, actually.
You're welcome. This is why I brought this thing.
It took them forever to get that 55 car out of there. Maybe else there's like first lap, no brakes into the wall.
Yeah. Well, their track crew is no comparison to Wall Stadium Speedway. However, I think we've known that with the consistency with NASCAR and stuff like that. But you're right, Josh. I did notice that, especially at the road course races this year. A lot of really slow track help.
Now, do you think that they're just spreading it too thin, or are they doing like the F1 kind of thing where they get like, hey, do you live near here and you want to help out? We won't pay you, but you can help out.
That's absolutely what it is.
I could
Really?
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. So they don't know what they're doing. They get, get like a cheeseburger and like a large Coke.
Sounds like a good deal, actually.
I can tell you,
Get me be all over that.
That's awesome. Well, was it Connor Daly was there helping out in preparation for the Road America race? Connor Daly was trying to get used to it and just get the experience of being around the Xfinity cars and working with the crews and just doing some general learning.
That was sorry to cut you off, Josh. That was a really cool interview he gave there, especially because he looked really happy to be there. And we're going to talk about what happened to him in a little bit. And I just think it's really sad that guy was so happy to race an Xfinity car. I've never heard anyone be so happy to race an Xfinity car, and then that crap happened to him, with him losing Lily's.
Yeah, well,
on that side of it.
Yeah, I mean, he got screwed there, and
he did.
I think this otherwise has been covered to death throughout social media and all. But we're referring to Lilly Diabetes pulling their sponsorship of Connor Daly for the Road America race, all because his dad said a naughty word over 30 years ago. And
before Connor was born.
Yeah, before he was born. And here's the thing. I can see how, in this day and age, any company could be afraid of anybody pulling up something somebody said. Like let's say, Eric Brennan, ever becomes, like, famous, like if he learns to show up on time or something like that. And, I have somewhere on some edited out thing him cursing or saying, oh, F this. Or, he could be afraid that could, in theory, come to light at some point because it was recorded. And just because you have, half the people that want you in someplace, half the people hate you. And it just... So I see where they could be afraid that somebody could pull, but this is like, I think you're just digging too deep and going way too far off. I think that's Brian's audio.
And then I heard they said that happened 10 years before Connor Daly was even born. So why is he paying for something that happened 10 years before he was even born? It made no sense.
I completely agree, Scott. And everyone says he's such a genuine and like nice kid. There's no reason to...
For some reason, that Lilly Diabetes must have wanted out of that deal and didn't like that deal to begin with, and they just used that for an excuse to get out of it for some reason.
Why so last minute?
I don't know.
Because it's a rash. That's why.
Well, but here's the other thing. I mean, if you think about it, I never knew about the Connor Daly thing, and I'm sure more than 10 people knew that he said that, years ago. But I didn't know about it. I wouldn't have even thought. And now, how many people are looking this up and trying to and learning more about it because they pulled their sponsorship?
Bought it. Right. Yeah, they brought more attention to it.
Exactly. So if anything, they just made it worse, and then everybody's siding against them. Now, I did a hashtag like Lilly or diabetes or something like that. I just did a quick search on like Twitter, and all the tweets against Lilly Diabetes, like calling them out and saying they're not going to buy their insulin or other diabetes related products from them anymore. It's amazing. So you can see, I think they're going to realize that they made a mistake, but I also think that in a week or two, it's just going to pass and everybody's going to forget about it.
Right. Connor who?
Yeah. So I think it had a great field of cars at Road America. Early in the race, or actually, no, I don't think it was that early. Sieg spun, went into the sand trap. He did like 2 donuts just trying to keep it going until he finally got out onto the grass and was able to get back on the track. And that's something I want to say, impresses me so much more than like F1 or IndyCars. Because once you're in the sand, that's it. I mean, unless you have enough speed to skitter across, at least these cars can kind of dig their way out.
Did you say skitter?
Yes. I did.
Okay.
Should we put that in the show description?
No, we're good.
Google it.
Sam learned a new word.
Skittered.
All right, so continue from there, Sam.
Skitter means moving lightly and quickly or hurriedly.
Yeah.
The girl skittered up the stairs.
Right.
It's a word.
Right.
We have
Google said it was a word. It must be a word.
Giggle said it was a word?
Google.
Sounded like giggle.
No. That's what I'll be doing
Anyway.
in a couple minutes.
All right, let's get her across to the next
Anyway,
segment here.
So the Cup guys raced at Michigan. Kevin Harvick won Michigan. Didn't miss much. Besides the whole Truex problem at Michigan, there really wasn't much of a race. Uncontrolled tires. Ty Dillon hitting that battery was pretty impressive. I don't know if any of you guys saw that.
I love the meme of like a water. There's a picture of a water bottle, and it said, "Oh, debris on the track. Throw the yellow." And then it's a picture of the batteries. It's probably nothing.
Yeah.
That's just life.
It's just, it was, ridiculous. But now, was it Larson that was able to swerve and just barely avoid it?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
I can't believe they let the battery sit out there and like for how many eyes they have on the track. I was really surprised that got away.
So real quick, you didn't really miss much with that. At Bristol, Kurt Busch ended up pulling out a really much-needed victory at Bristol. Kind of put an end, as of right now, to the retirement talk of him talking. I don't know if any of you guys heard anything about that, but I heard he might be going to
Well, there's that whole it's that whole rumor mill thing, and like about Truex. Where's he gonna go? Is he gonna have a ride? And they're talking about, maybe he could go up, and take Kurt's place or this or that. Which technically he took Kurt's place already.
Right, front row.
Yeah. So I mean, it's silly season basically. It's just all weird talk. I don't want to get into that only because it's so like
we have so much to talk about.
It's 2018.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, and there's nothing concrete or not enough, substantial.
Well, Brian, you're down south in North Carolina in the Charlotte area. What are you hearing about Kurt Busch and where he's going?
You should live in Mooresville. You should hear everything that goes on down here.
Yeah.
I would say if I was a betting man from everything that's going on, I think he's going to take Monster Energy to the 1 car next year. McMurray's going to be out of a ride. And the 41, they're just grooming the 41 for Cole Custer. I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, his dad runs Hot. So they're saying Cole Custer possibly to the 41 and then Chase Briscoe over to the 00 because he's in the Ford family and to the Xfinity car over there.
Do you think Kurt Busch is getting pushed out of that 41 car? Because I couldn't see why he would want to leave Stuart Haas to go over to Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, getting pushed out because of Cole Custer.
Pushed out, okay.
Yeah, I mean, his dad runs the whole joint. When Gene Haas went to jail, Cole Custer's dad ran the whole place.
Right.
So when Cole Custer wants to run a Cup car, he'll run a Cup car for them.
How cool would it be, though, to watch Kurt Busch win the championship, which he can. He's in the chase now, and just retire as the champion. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, he could
we've seen drivers do that in the past. Yeah, Nico Rosberg did it 2 years ago.
Right.
The biggest thing is he's got Monster, so he still has Monster in his pocket.
And Monster will be happy to get out of the being the primary sponsor of the series. I think they can't wait
the only
to get
downfall with the Monster sponsorship is they only sign 1-year contracts, so it's like you're always in limbo with them, after a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their plan really is, but I don't think that they're going to want to stick around. I call it a hunch. But with that, I mean, we've had a couple, especially these road course races. It's been exciting finishes, exciting races all the way around. And then Bristol was certainly exciting. I know everybody was. Kyle Busch had a rough weekend, and there's that whole thing where he got into it with some heckler, and I don't.
I just found out about that.
Really,
that's pretty impressive.
You know what though? Good for Kyle Busch. He stood his ground with that guy. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people were giving crap for he shouldn't have confronted a fan like that. No, the fan went over the line, and Kyle Busch stuck up for himself. I'm proud of Kyle for sticking up for himself like that.
Exactly. I mean, there was another thing. All these people complain that drivers don't have personalities these days, that they're too neutered by NASCAR. And then Kyle Busch shows all this, personality, and then everybody complains.
Right.
Do you even know what personality means?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Google it.
Yeah, go Google. You want to Google personality?
what I find funny is what could Kyle Busch honestly do wrong for you to want to fight him? Like, what could he really do to you? It's sitting in the stands that you'd want to fight Kyle Busch. You know what I mean?
I guess he was a Truex fan. That's the only thing I can think of.
Which Martin Truex should get out the way then.
Yeah.
Martin Truex should get out the way because 18's coming through.
Well, he did admit.
And you know what? And Kyle did admit he was wrong. He made a mistake, and he did apologize for it. I thought Kyle handled that really good, but then again, the fan might not have heard that. Whatever.
I mean, personally, it wasn't like
everybody says they want it to be Bristol, but then as soon as it's Bristol, everybody gets all upset.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
solid point.
But with that, there's been there's an article saying NASCAR is looking to switch to more short tracks come 2020, as the contracts run out for other tracks. Now, I'm not saying that is a solution, but I know a lot of people are calling for it. Everybody goes, "Oh, North Wilkesboro, go back to North Wilkesboro," or Rockingham. They want more of these. And what was it, the fairgrounds? I just saw
the fairgrounds. It seems to be getting a lot of press attention.
Where was that again? Nashville.
Nashville.
Okay.
They said that the Cup bigwigs were there after Bristol. They went there to try to get a meeting or something.
See, the problem with all those tracks is they got to have safer barriers. That's the biggest problem. So the first short track that they need to go back to, we'll be there in 2 weeks with the ARCA car, is ORP. They got to go back to ORP because it's already got safer barriers. The trucks and the Xfinity cars are running 12 miles away, and it's the worst race you ever seen. All you got to do is go over on Friday night, watch the ARCA race, and the place is packed, and it's a good short track.
But I think, with you saying that, I think the reason that they're looking at Nashville is because there's, like state money involved, like, taxpayer money. So they could afford to put the safer barrier at that track because there is money.
Yeah, that's we've run there with ARCA, and then I've gone there the last couple of years for the All-American 400, the big super late model race. And I think the fairgrounds is awesome. It's such a cool racetrack, and the facility's nice, and it is state funded because it is the fairgrounds. So if it's a possibility, it'd be awesome to go there.
How's the concession stands at the fairgrounds?
Well, I will tell you one thing. This weekend, Timmy, I'm going to Des Moines for the second dirt ARCA race, and it is the Illinois State Fair. So I will be getting some good state fair food for you, boy.
Gonna get fried cheese on a stick.
Oh, jeez.
Whatever you want.
So, now one thing I noticed, like IndyCar, I think was just at Gateway, and I'm not saying
I love that track.
IndyCar's race there was not particularly exciting, but they also have a lot fewer cars, and anyway. But now that track has the safer barriers, but only in the corners. The front stretch and the back stretch do not have the safer barrier yet. And for NASCAR, it has to be all the way around. And the only exception is Eldora, where they said they're going slow enough that they're not as concerned.
Well, the trucks ran Gateway. The trucks ran Gateway the last 3 years.
Yep.
Okay.
They actually do a study for the safer barriers, and it doesn't necessarily have to be all the way around. They have a criteria where they have to be. So, they just tell the trucks where they have to be.
Well, I remember at Daytona they made a big deal about putting it basically everywhere, and then Kyle Busch broke both his legs, and then because they thought it was impossible for a car to hit there, and then it happened.
And like Brian says, they don't have it in Eldora. It goes by track size, the speed of the track, and stuff like that.
Although for Gateway, I would recommend even if it's not likely, it's still possible, and it just like what we're going to get into later with the halos or with IndyCar looking into the windscreen. Just because it doesn't happen often doesn't mean.
So Josh, you were just at Pocono. With you saying that, for some reason, I don't think they have the safer barrier down the front straightaway at Pocono.
I believe they do.
Yeah.
I know they got it in 3 because that's where Joe backed it in there, and he walked away with fun.
He hit a ton there. Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, he did. Crew chief said, "What's the look like?"
She sent me a picture. She's like, "Joe just wrecked real bad." Joe Graff Jr. And the back of that car was pushed the fuel cell, and it was all to the back of almost to the seat.
Yeah, that's what I told Paul Andrews. He's our crew chief. Who won the championship in '92 with Alan Kowicki. He's our crew chief on the ARCA car. And he said, "Well, what's it look like?" I said, "Well, fuel cell is touching the back of the seat, so I think guys get the saws off that."
How about you bring up Paul Andrews' name? He used to have a son named Tim Andrews that was doing very good in like the Camping World East and all that stuff. Did he stop racing? I thought he was definitely going to make it. He was a good driver.
He's a car chief or truck chief on the 25 at GMS truck that Dalton Sargent just got out of.
Okay, so he switched to crowing, and he's not.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. Unless you got enough money, I mean, you know the deal.
I'm pretty sure I was at Dover one time. I think he won the race at Dover. Or came real close to winning it.
He was good in he run good in the East cars, and he run some truck stuff and some ARCA stuff also.
Mm-hmm. Scott, sorry to interrupt. Just so I did share my screen.
There is some.
There's safer barrier right under the flag stand there, so it is the whole length of the thing. So just throwing that up there. They do have it all the way around.
I tried Googling it, but
the concession stands at Poconos suck too.
I'll tell you one thing. The ice cream line was pretty long.
Ice cream line was long?
Yeah.
For which race?
Truck race.
Truck race.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into it in a little bit, but I was there for the IndyCar race, and
well, let's talk about the IndyCar race in Pocono. It's the elephant in the room. We haven't talked about it yet on the RPM podcast. The Pocono race.
It's been forgotten.
Josh, you were.
Yeah,
Josh, you were there.
Yeah, and honestly, the big thing was the wreck on technically like lap 8, lap 9. Because they basically had to throw a yellow as they crossed the line to take the green. Spencer Piggott.
You know, Josh, I was kind of laughing because I knew you were at that race, and I thought it was so cool that. Did you go with your father? Did you bring your son to the Pocono race?
I just went out with my dad. It was about a 3-hour drive out, and we got the I got the tickets. Well, it ended up being really cloudy. Otherwise, a gorgeous day, and the cloudiness was helpful for me. But I got the shaded area for the seats just in case.
Yes.
But those seats also came with the paddock pass. So prior to the race, we could walk around in the pits. Dario Franchitti almost ran me over with his little scooter.
I just thought it was funny because, Brian, just so you know, Josh hates the sportsman division at Wall Stadium because they wreck like every lap. Here he is, him and his father finally take a day and go to the IndyCar race, and here they are. They don't even, on the very first start, they wreck.
Yeah, and it was
it
was exactly like a sportsman wreck too. Like he just ran to the back.
So
and
the
then
whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, Josh is at a high-dollar sportsman race right now. He must be ready to kill himself.
Yeah, but the only difference is he had paddock passes, not pit passes.
Not pit passes.
Yeah. But I will say that pass was awesome. We got to walk around, basically go right up to the garages. I mean, I know you can do this and other things, and being in the pits at Wall all the time, it's you're used to it. But now these are these big names, like some of the most elite drivers, I guess you could say. And there's their cars, and you can talk. You can meet the drivers, talk to crew guys, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then we actually got to walk right behind all the pit boxes, and my dad even asked one of the pit crew guys that was there, just like preparing tires and getting other things in place. It's like, how heavy are those? Because we're used to the factory stock tires, with the big heavy steel rims or whatever. The pit guy just says, pick one up. I thought these things would be guarded, so nobody slashes them or something like that. No, the guy's like, yeah, pick one up, see what it's like, and you could pick this whole wheel, like rim and tire, up with your damn pinky. The things weigh nothing, so it's amazing. It really that shocked me. Then they had the guys doing the ride-alongs and stuff like that while we were down there. What was your question?
No, I'm envious of the IndyCar guys. Let me tell you, when we go to Texas with the trucks and the IndyCars are there. And, NASCAR is so, clean cut, and you got to wear pants, and you got to have, your shirt tucked in up on the spotter stand. And you get up there, and they're running 4 wide with the Indy cars, and Rick Mears is standing there in his shorts and his flip-flops. And I'm like, oh, man. I want to be Rick Mears right now.
But Josh, you touched on it just before when we were talking about Gateway that, you like the Indy cars, but they don't run that many cars. And that's why I felt bad about you being at Pocono. Here you are at Pocono on a 2.5-mile track. They start 22 cars. half of them wreck after lap 8 after the big wreck on the back straightaway. Now you're down to like 13 cars or something like that on a 2.5 mile track. It doesn't make for a good race, you know.
It definitely doesn't give you like as much side by side or action or the battles that I would like. So I would say being able to walk around in the pits and that experience was probably better than the actual race was. Now, mind you, we also had to sit through. Oh, bless you. A nearly 2-hour delay after that wreck involving Robert Wickens, which I think was it Michael Andretti blamed that wreck on Wickens when really he just had his nose in there a little bit. Hunter Ray came down on him, and it ended up sending Wickens up into the catch fence. Whipping him around pretty bad. I mean,
what was the vibe like in the grandstands for that couple hours when you didn't really know what was going on? Like, what were people doing? What were people saying about what was going on?
The instant reaction to the crash was that, oh my gosh, as you're like, is this really happening? But after that, we really didn't get any PA stuff. They didn't really announce anything. There was some of kind of like the broadcast stuff going on, but there was no replays of the incident. So and they had the screens there. They just weren't showing it. And I know they weren't showing it on the TV.
Same at sitting home and watching TV. It was the same exact vibe. They were actually talking more about the start of the race wreck than they were the Wickens wreck. They were kind of not focused on it, waiting for word.
So I think they were all fearful as well, and then they didn't want to show it. And I know I'd been messaging with you guys as well, and Eric Brennan was like, keep an eye on the helicopter. And sure enough, I watched the helicopter start up, and it was quite a while before they got him stabilized and out. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I was going to say, I hate to compare the two, but it was unfortunate, but Eric Brennan and I were at Pocono when Justin Wilson happened to pass away there. So, I can only imagine how – I remember that day very well and how quiet the stands were. And I can't imagine how it was with Wickens, because that was horrific wreck.
I don't think – they gave us so little information, so there was a little bit of concern. But at the same time, you didn't have anything to go on. And sometimes they could take that long just to stabilize a broken leg or something else.
Right.
So, and there were no cameras, showing us them working on him, so you really had no clue. And my dad and I were a bit concerned, and I was getting some more information. Like I was texting back and forth with Eric Graham as well, and he's like, okay, so we all agreed that it was pretty bad, but again,
right.
there was no information, so nobody really knew. And I think a lot of these people also weren't the diehard IndyCar fans. I mean, I'd say everyone here is big, racing fans, of all series. Then we have like Mayor of Shimtown, who's really big into IndyCar. He'll watch probably any racing, but I think IndyCar is his main attraction. And I think there were a lot of just people that came there with their kids. Maybe they got a ticket deal or something like that. But yeah, it was.
Did a lot of people leave after that wreck, or did a lot of people stay the 2 hours and wait through the delay, or did you lose the crowd?
A good number stayed. A handful left. They did. Especially, I mean, they gave it a few minutes.
Did you ever think about leaving?
Hell no. I wasn't leaving.
Well, then I was starting to get worried of darkness because Pocono doesn't have the lights or whatever. So now you're a 2 hour delay. So now are they going to get the whole race? And they ended up did going 500 miles. So it was good that you stayed.
Yeah. Well, there was actually the row in front of us. I want to say 4 or 5 people. Probably only about 20 to 30 minutes before they went back to green. Gave up and they left, and I was like, "Wow, all that money that's just walking away as far as tickets are concerned."
Right.
They gave up, and whatever, they had stuff to do. It would have been nice to have been home earlier, but I'm glad I stayed and watched. There were a couple decent passes and some things going on. I mean, they went green the whole rest of the way. I don't know. I mean, I still had a good time. It was, sadly overcast by that incident. And the last report that I saw was that Wickens is now breathing on his own and able to talk with his family.
Yes. And for those who don't know, Alexander Rossi didn't end up winning that race. at Pocono that happened to be covered, with the Robert Wickens wreck. They're doing a lot of fundraisers for Robert Wickens. There's stickers you can buy, merchandise you can buy, just to, show the love and support to the Wickens and his whole family.
I did buy a little, little like Matchbox size Wickens car while I was there for my
cool.
kids. So
that's adorable.
Well, to make light of the whole situation, if you have not yet gone on to an IndyCar race, you need to go out and check out an IndyCar race. The access is incredible. The people you meet is incredible. The whole experience is just amazing. It's cheap. It's fun. And you get to see some cool open-wheel race cars.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time. Like you said, the access was, second to none. I mean, you could probably do that in NASCAR to some degree, but it would cost probably a whole lot more.
Yeah. IndyCar is better. Yeah. Spend your money at IndyCar, not NASCAR.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun doing that. They had a car show going on inside there as well, and like they had the two-seater Indy cars. So they're giving people rides in that. They had a vintage cars, two or three sets of vintage cars going around, and that Alan Kawicki restoration car. So
that made my day.
Sam had his.
And the fact that we talked about Paul Andrews, this podcast is fantastic. Paul's a smart guy. I wouldn't want to mess with him.
But yeah, so I mean, overall, it's just the still waiting to hear what's going to happen.
What was the cost of the ticket, Josh, for something like that?
Each ticket was $150.
Yeah, same for the Cup if you want to set up under that shaded area, right?
Yeah. I think when we went to Dover, if we wanted to be up high enough to see the whole track, I'm just comparing it to Pocono because I did look at ticket prices for the Cup race and the IndyCar race, and I found it pretty surprising that they were charging the same exact thing for the IndyCar race as they do the Cup race. But
I don't pass.
But the ticket did come with that pass for the pits,
right?
So there was that added bonus, and for me, it was worth every penny.
I just thought the IndyCar race would be a little cheaper than say the Cup race.
Probably, I would have thought that as well. Plus, IndyCar just wants to fill all the seats possible.
There looked like there was a decent crowd there, though.
There actually was. I was really surprised at how many people came out to that. But if you think about it, NHRA has a lot of trouble filling seats at a lot of their venues. But when they were doing the Summer Nationals at Englishtown, it was packed. I don't know why, but closer to this area seems to be just busy, or people are willing to. I don't know. I don't know if it's money. I don't know what the deal is, but it works out. What are you eating, Scott? Is that cheese?
No, it's a cracker.
It's a cracker.
It's a cracker.
I'm terrified.
Okay. Anyway. I
lost
my spot.
IndyCar.
There's another thing I want to mention. Wall Stadium track announcer Earl Krause was at Pocono as well. He does the public address announcing there, and
he does it at the Cup races too.
Yeah, it was weird walking around in the pits there and hearing
yeah,
Pocono, USA or something.
He actually saw us when we went for the truck race. He saw us and came down and talked to us.
Oh yeah,
in the grandstands, yeah.
I did not happen to run into him, but I did hear him a number of times, which so it was a weird. I know I'm not at Wall, but it feels like Wall. And then then we had a short musical performance before the national anthem was played by Lee Greenwood. Earl Krause got to announce Lee Greenwood, but not the Lee Greenwood from Wall. So I just thought that was I wonder what it felt like for him to announce that. It had to be slightly awkward. I guess. No, I don't know. Anyway, so moving on from Pocono, as we still await further updates from Wickens and wish him the best.
I just saw the Wickens crash. It's terrifying. I hate Indy cars. I hate them.
The question is what to do or what can be done to try to prevent those kind of things because.
They're blaming it on the catch fence now. I mean, you have the safer walls now. The cars are safer now. They're trying to figure out something to do safer with the catch fence, which I really don't know what they could do. I mean, I was thinking maybe a thick, clear plexiglass in front of it,
like a hockey rink, right?
Yeah, like a hockey rink. But I don't know.
My fear that would be faded. That would fade or get cloudy by being exposed to the sun.
Yeah. Well, I mean. You would just put it in sections of the track where there isn't fans behind it, and where Wickens wrecked, there was no grandstands over there, so you could have had it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did you see it?
you're not blocking
I
a
was
view
there.
of.
I know, but like,
She's asking,
how
could you see
how
it when
far
you
away was it? Because when we were at Pocono,
it was about as far away from our seats as you could get.
I
To be
know.
honest.
Yeah.
they looked like ants when I was at Pocono.
Yeah, I will compare it to one thing real quick. If you've ever gone to an air show and seen, like the F-16s, or if you see the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds or whatever, when they go farther out and they're cruising, and they just make a turn and you see them just shoot around, and you like, wow, holy crap, that's fast. Watching the Indy cars go, especially back to the tunnel turn. It reminded me of being at an air show with the jets, making these hard turns, because it was just like, holy crap, how is he going that fast? Just whoosh. I don't. It was
I can imagine how fast they are, because I said the same thing when I went to the Cup race there. I went there with John Gasco and we watched Dale Jr. win at the Cup race, and I couldn't believe how fast those heavy Cup cars were coming through turn 3 and onto the front straightaway. It was amazing when they came out of that tunnel turn.
In Iowa this year, they were 9 seconds faster than us with the ARCA cars.
Is that amazing or what? It's almost to the point you can't even see them go by. They're so fast.
You sit down in turn 3, and the ARCA car, they haul the mail. They send it off on the chip there pretty good. And then you watch an IRL, an Indy car come through there, and you're like, wow. I mean, they look like slot cars.
Yeah. It was just ridiculous.
I want to say his car turned into a fidget spinner, but.
Ouch. Well, Tizzy, you're exactly right, and they're saying that's what the problem is. The car hits the catch fence and it's fine. Yeah. Then it hits the poles, and that's what makes the car spin around.
I just watched it, and it's like,
I was surprised.
He just jumped.
It took down 80 feet or damaged 80 feet of the catch fence, and and including that pole, and I don't know what the solution would be. I mean, some people are talking about double stacking the safer barriers. But then, what if they still get over that? I mean, you see wrecks like this at Indy and such. It's just, I mean, it was terrifying. It's terrible to see. I don't have a solution.
I hate to be that guy.
You are that guy.
I am. Everything did its job properly. Yes. The race car drivers, I hate to say that they're not asking for this when they strap into those race cars, but there's a reason why I'm not a race car driver. That's all I'm saying. Not saying Robert. I hate to see it, especially Robert Wickens. Not that I hate to see this happen to any race car driver, but Robert's had such a fantastic year so far.
Yeah.
But
anyway, that's why I like fenders.
Oh, here we go.
Real quick, before I have to go, the IndyCar Series finished up their final oval race at Gateway. Will Power ended up winning the race. Alexander Rossi finished second, and Scott Dixon finished third. It was a pretty boring race. Came down to fuel mileage. However, Alexander Rossi drove his ass off.
He got so loose. I think it was off of 2, and he was full lock to the right trying to save that thing. And I don't know how at that speed that he hung on to it, but he did. So kudos to him. Just that save alone.
I've never seen a save like that. That car should have been wrecked.
Oh yeah, it should have gone around. Either it should have spun or he would have gone head on into the wall. He should have not been able to save that, but he did. So that was just amazing, through and through. So I mean, but other than that, the race wasn't. It came down to fuel mileage, and it was kind of stupid. Trying to save fuel and short pitting and things like that. Yeah.
I just want to know why they have such dangerous race cars still going on.
Well,
I think that's what Sam was. They can only make it so safe.
Well, here's
I know,
the thing.
but still, there's still going to be crashes because they still have car crashes on the street. But I feel like these are just a lot dangerous.
What was the pole speed for that race?
They're like 220 something there, right?
They were well over 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I think they're like 222 or 223 or something like that.
Whoa. Are you throwing stuff, Scott? What was that? Was that your cracker?
The cat ripped the cord out of it.
Kiwi grabbed the cord.
So anyway, moving into F1, and as we're talking about the safety of these cars, IndyCar has, and it frustrates me, has yet to put together anything for head safety. F1 took longer than I would have liked, but they have the halo, which came into
Did
play.
you see the dent on that guy's halo?
The big tire mark on it? Yeah.
So it's working.
Despite the cars looking like flip-flops, it works.
It does look like a big flip-flop.
Sam says flip-flop. Everybody else says thong. So, Sam, stop being such a little good boy.
It looks like a flip-flop. I don't know what thongs y'all looking at. Not that I'm looking at any, but looks like a flip-flop.
Sure. You keep telling yourself that. So, but the whole car, well, I mean, all right, the corner or side of the car hit that halo and kind of bounced off of it. I mean, now, would the car have otherwise hit his helmet? I don't know. It might have cleared it, but that halo held up. So I want to say that's, again, proving it to the fans. And you know what? Most people are used to it. It's not even a really big talking point anymore. Like, good, it's there.
I like it because they put the little number of the driver you're looking at when it comes to the webcam, the little name, so you actually know what you're looking at. Otherwise, beforehand, it was the helmet, and you couldn't see the helmet beforehand. And if you're not Lewis Hamilton, you can't really tell whose helmet's who. They all look the same.
Yeah. They're going so damn fast. I don't know. But I'm glad that the halo was there. I'm glad that it did manage to keep something, parts of the car away from the driver's head. So that was interesting. But now the cause of that whole incident was Hulkenberg being a sportsman driver.
Oof.
I guess. I mean, he just locked him up and went right into the back of was that no Leclerc's the one that had the car land on him. I forget who he hit the back of. But here's the thing. At Spa, I want to say it was a couple years ago, Grosjean basically did kind of the same thing. They gave Grosjean a full race, like he had to miss the next race as a penalty. Hulkenberg just got a 10 grid spot penalty for the next race. What's the reasoning?
It's the FIA. I mean, I crap on NASCAR too much on this podcast. I'm not going to start crapping on the FIA. I'm not going to be employed.
Well, the FIA will show up at your house and just.
They're listening right now. Bernie somewhere.
They are their own government. It's kind of ridiculous. Raikkonen had a rough start. He got, I guess, some contact. Had a rear tire go down. Got it into the pits. Went back out, but then it was overheating or something. I don't know. Things weren't working right, and he was complaining. And it was typical Kimmy being Kimmy. But
you're right.
Other than that, it wasn't a terrible race. I was trying to half watch it while working on my floor and everything because there was a lot to watch and keep track of. But it was now there's a lot of rumors with Ricardo.
Ricardo's going over to Renault next year.
Yeah, but there's been talk about like sabotage and things like that. I don't know if there's been some funky rumors going on, and I don't want to.
Sounds like a bunch of fake news.
It probably is, but they're saying that, between like trade secrets and that this guy was actually planning on doing something. It's been crap all the way around. So. Now, can we talk real quick, because I know Sam's only got a few minutes left here before we go to local. Racing Point Force India. Is that a stupid name or what?
Sounds like an STD.
It's an RPFI is what it is. So Sahara Force India has been purchased.
Correct, by Lance Stroll's father.
Okay. Now, that doesn't sound like, what we talked about with Cole Custer and all that before.
Nepotism?
Yeah, nepotism, correct, Sam. And now there's all this other garbage rumor going on about where Stroll's going to be going. Because how does he not go to Force India? At that point,
I think it's pretty obvious. Where he's going.
But everybody's like, "Oh, is he going to go there?" Like, how does he not go there?
Yeah. However, the reason why they did it was, I think it's kind of BS because Force India's had a great year so far. Because they sold it, the FIA made them give up all their owner points. So the driver points are still the same.
It's owner and constructor points, right?
That's correct.
Okay, but the drivers retain their points.
They didn't get a charter when they bought it.
Yeah.
EK sold out already, Scott.
Yes, I saw that.
I didn't know charters were interchangeable between different series.
Fenders, fenderless, whatever. We got them.
It's charter. It is whatever you make it to be, really, because it doesn't exist. There's nothing tangible, and that pisses me off so much about charters.
Just not tell Brian France.
Why?
Whatever. That was a bad joke. My bad.
He's busy drinking and doing pills and and apologizing to Jeremy Mayfield.
Anyway.
Now they said that the FIA may have made them change the team name and split this up a little bit because they want to separate the team for Stroll, actually to help him because the previous owner was in debt and being chased and going to be arrested. Yeah, and they didn't want the F1 team to now be able to be seized as like putting a lien on something.
Don't we kid about it. It was very similar to what BK Racing had to deal with their charter. So I mean, it happens. These guys don't have all the money in the world like some people.
Yeah. So it's been kind of a thing where they're looking at possibly protecting at least the team, but it also made things kind of difficult. But the drivers retained their points, which was good. However, then they argued, well, if you're making us, reset to zero, essentially, then we want our engine numbers reset and all that. Where they're allowed how many engines a year? 4, you think?
3?
Yeah, I thought
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. You pistons numbered. Yeah. Anyway, but then the FIA had to rule for fairness that they would have to not have their engine limit renewed and be have that advantage. So. It's like I don't know. It's a weird area, and I know that probably was the more fair thing to do across the board. But it does suck that if you're going to take all this away and make them change their name, that you're not going to give them. I don't know. I could see both sides of it. It sucks. So that's really all I had for F1 because that was kind of about it. From there, there were a few decent passes and actually I was interested. The rear wings were awfully different on a few of the cars. I don't know if you noticed that, but I think a couple cars had much smaller rear wings, so they had less downforce. So, I think it was Red Bull had smaller rear wings. They had less rear downforce, which hurt them in the turns, but it helped their straight line speed because they felt that they were down about 70 horsepower compared to some of the top teams.
Yeah, I think that's the beginning of the new, the silly season over there at F1. They began the few weeks off. So I think it's really important to realize that a lot of teams, especially the midfield teams, are thinking of 2019 and kind of forgetting about this year. Especially Force India now where they can't win anything. So why bother?
Now, did you find it odd at all that, here they are, essentially a brand new team, and then they qualify second row?
No.
Well, no, I mean, when Haas was first on the scene and then they finished 5th in their first race and they're turning some heads, now you have Force India, now new owners, things are changing over, and then boom, second row.
Force India has some good drivers, and their cars aren't that bad, besides them being pink. I don't know. I just think I agree, Tizzy. I think it's a great setup, and I think that Force India, hopefully they don't lose what they have because they really could be the best of the rest over in Formula One.
So do you think Stroll going to Force India would help or hurt them?
Hurt.
Okay.
Hurt. I mean, we have so much to talk about. We'll have to get into this another time, but I'm not a big Lance Stroll fan.
Okay.
No offense, nothing personally,
Okay. All right.
But yeah.
So let's
do that for Nick right now.
That's fine. All right, so we're going to move on to our local segment now. Chris Gall, how are you doing, buddy?
Should we talk about the ARCA race real quick?
1 second. I just want to point out that Chris Gall bought a douche stang. I don't know why. He did. He has to deal with it. I don't know. He bought a douche thing. So, yeah. I actually had to comment and say, hey, did he, run over a crowd of people as he left the dealership?
There are some people that I know listen to the show that drive Mustangs, and I'm going to stick up for them for my benefit.
Where do you get those?
I make them. Anyway. All right. So let's do the ARCA race real quick. Anybody want to take the lead on that?
Brian, the ARCA race was at Berlin.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just finishing my cup of tea after we're talking about F1 for the last 7 minutes. Hold on.
It's supposed to be wine and cheese, damn it.
Yeah, the ARCA race, it was actually a makeup race that we had run practice about a month earlier, and it got rained out. So we went out to Berlin on Saturday and did a quick half-hour practice session, and it was actually their champions night. So there was like 7 other divisions, and they all were racing for their championships. So it was a really good night. I mean, the place was packed. I mean, standing room only. Good to see it as, local short track, even if it's in Michigan. And we were on 200 laps in the ARCA race, and we actually ended up coming away with a win.
Oh, that's a long day then. Was the ARCA race last, or did you race before the local divisions? Or
now they started local divisions at 5, and we started about 10.
Whew. Oh, wow. That's a long day. And you ran 200 laps starting at 10 o'clock at night, huh?
Yeah, 200 laps.
That's what happened.
Do you get time and a half, Brian, by any chance, or is it just more of a come-and-go type of thing?
No time and a half.
Do they pay you in
I
food?
Don't work enough hours. I don't work enough hours for it to be time and a half.
Okay, fair enough.
Brian, tell us a little bit about the track Berlin itself. I know it's a unique shaped track. It's a short track. Is there a pit road there, or is there no pit road? Did you guys have pit stops?
We did live pit stops, but it's a makeshift pit road. It's a big half mile out in Michigan, and it's unique. There's no wall on the backstretch whatsoever, but it hosts one of the biggest super late model races in the country. The Show Me the Money, 10,000 to win that they have there every year. Kyle Busch, Bubba Pollard, all them run it. And they run weekly racing every Saturday, everything from super late models down to, I guess, like what we would call factory stocks, really.
And that's an ARCA sanctioned racetrack, right? Like Toledo and Flat Rock.
Yep, Toledo is actually owned by ARCA.
Yeah, so is Flat Rock too, right? Yeah. Is Berlin owned by ARCA, or is it just an ARCA sanction?
No, it's just a CAR JAGS ARCA sanctioned track.
Okay.
I know Freebeer and Hot Wings have run a 4-cylinder race up at Berlin because they're based out of Michigan, and that's always an interesting event to go and watch. But it seems to be otherwise a pretty popular track. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I don't know how many other tracks are actually in the area there.
All right, so let's get to it. I watched a video over the last 10 laps of this race. What race did you see, Hot Pockets? From up top.
What I see the last 10 laps, I seen that we restarted third with about 15 to go, and Chandler Smith, who runs for Venerini, he's a young kid just signed with Toyota. He runs a lot of super late model races and good talent, and he got out on us, and we ran him down, and by the time we got to turn 3, coming to the checker flag, there was just a little bit of contact. He happened to go around. And we come off of 4, and everybody was super pumped. The first thing I did, because with ARCA, they'll throw the yellow, and they won't come to the checkered. So I looked right at the flag man, and I seen that he was throwing the yellow. I was like, oh, we're gonna either get black flagged or we're gonna have our hands full here on this last restart. And we restarted, and Zane Smith actually got us on the top side going into 1. And I give Joe all the credit in the world. Zane left the bottom open getting into 3, and, Joe wasn't scared. And the old adage, 8 tires are better than 4. Well, we used 12. we used 12. So 12 is obviously better than 8 and better than 4 getting down in there. And, Joe ended up getting his first ARCA win.
He kind of Kesslered him.
I think Joe, you could see where Joe had a good nose. Like he he could turn the car down in the corner.
He was getting in those corners really a lot better than all the cars on the track. He was gaining a car length going into the corner every time.
Yeah, he was definitely strong on entry. And, you know, the weird thing is at one point we were 2 laps down in that race. We didn't get back on the we didn't get back in the lead lap until about 45 to go. And when we did, we put right sides on, and we had about 25 laps fresher right sides than everybody else in the field. And I mean, he muscled his way from 15th to the top 5, and then a couple of cautions here or there, worked out in our favor and put us on a good line on the second to last restart, and he just capitalized on it.
Now, you as a spotter in the spotter stand, when a circumstance happens like that, I imagine you're also scanning the ARCA officials. Was there talk about you being black flagged for that, or getting sent to the rear or anything like that?
Yeah, the chatter was definitely there where they were letting everybody know, whoever was listening to ARCA, that they were definitely reviewing the situation. But it's happened so much. It would have been really hard for them to put their foot down, I believe, at that point and make an example out of us. Mm-hmm. So they let it go, and we ended up coming out on top.
Now, what about the other car's spotter himself? Did he say anything to you in the spotter stand about what happened?
So the spotter of the 20 car would be Frankie Kimmel III. It would be Frank Kimmel's son, 10-time ARCA champion.
Yes.
Oh, only him.
Yeah. So I'm friends with Frank. We all do the same races. Whether it's Xfinity or it's a small group of us. And to say he wasn't pleased would be an understatement. And he let me know that. But we have an agreement. An understanding up there. None of us are driving the race cars, but he definitely wasn't happy. I could say that much.
Yeah, well, I think it's also, like you said, you're not the one driving the car, so, it's not like you told him to, go for that or make that move. So, I mean, being upset versus, getting physical.
If it was the other way around, it would have happened. If Joe would have been first and the 20 would have been second and he had the better car, he probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what racing's become.
I don't want to hear those rattle his cage comments because I'm just going to hang up on everybody. Because to me, that's
there's no rattle his cage comment. Frankie Kimmel come over and, he said, well, you dumped us. I said, hey, absolutely we did. I mean, what do you want me to say at that point?
Right.
Yeah, we dumped you, man.
Now,
at least you're honest.
Lane, there was a little bit of pushing and shoving. I see Billy Venturini Jr. over there yelling and screaming. Did things calm down quickly, or did it stay escalated for a while?
No, it was escalated for a while. Billy come over, and when Joe was starting to do his donut, he ripped the flag out of his hand, and it got pretty heated when we were down there. But calmer heads prevailed. I'm sure. Venturini's been in a long time, just like our team, who's now Chad Bryant Racing, was formerly Cunningham Motorsports. And, everybody's won a race like that. I mean, that's what we're there. We're racing. So one day the shoe will be on the opposite foot, and I'm sure we'll be yelling at Billy Venturini in victory lane,
Right. Now this was Joe Graff Jr.'s first win in the ARCA Series?
Yeah, that was his first win. I don't know how many people are familiar, but we run second at Talladega earlier in the year by, I think it was about an inch and a half. It was the closest finish in the history of Talladega Super Speedway. And he runs second there, and we've got a third earlier in the year at Toledo and a handful of top fives. And, this was his first win here at Berlin. I think there's many more to come if he can just, stay on track and keep doing the right things like he's been doing all year.
How many more races do you have this year in the ARCA Series?
4 or 5, I want to. No, 4 more. There's the dirt race at DeCoin coming up. Then we go to ORP. Then we have a night race at Salem, which is the throwback race, kind of like ARCA's Darlington deal. So everybody runs throwback car. And then we end the year at Kentucky.
Yeehaw.
Kentucky.
Yep.
I mean, ARCA's a great series. I love the ARCA Series. I am a little nervous with NASCAR acquiring ARCA. What are your thoughts on NASCAR buying ARCA? What direction do you think they're going to go?
Well, I think from everything we hear, I think it's going to be a good thing because K&N struggles and ARCA struggles, and they're the exact same cars. The only thing that's different from a K&N car to an ARCA car is ARCA cars have roof flaps. K&N cars don't. I mean, I know it sounds, $10,000, that's a lot of money, but, for 10 grand, you can turn a K&N car right into an ARCA car and go run Daytona or Talladega. So I think they're going to figure something out, and they're going to, put both of those series under one banner, and I think it's going to help with car count, and I think it will be a good thing.
I didn't know that about the ARCA and K&N. Hot Pockets is bringing so much to the table.
Yeah, the only difference is, the only difference, I mean, the K&N runs that, the Robert Yates spec engine, the same thing Modified Tour runs, and ARCA runs the Ilmore motor. They were technically the guinea pig for the last 2 years for the truck series. They took the Ilmore motor right out of the ARCA car and put it in the truck. So if you bought an Ilmore and put roof flaps in your K&N car, you could go right to any ARCA race.
That's okay. Now, I'm curious from your viewpoint. I mean, I know you talked about Venturini and having other team owners, but how much does a driver bringing funding matter in ARCA overall?
I mean, every kid that's in ARCA is funded. There's not a family team. There's nobody really doing it on a small budget. Every kid that's there is funded completely, either by sponsorship or their parents or whatever it is. It's a little bit less than a truck series and not much to run a full ARCA schedule.
Right. Because I mean, I know years ago I kind of viewed ARCA as like it almost like if you looked at NASCAR as a ladder system. I know ARCA isn't technically NASCAR, but a lot of you'll see ARCA guys and then move up into the trucks or Xfinity and such. So it was treated like a ladder system, but it's almost like I've said it before, and I know it's a negative thing, but it seems to me very much pay to play if you want to race ARCA.
Oh, absolutely, it's pay to play.
Okay, it's such a shame though, because I mean you can get so much talent. If it wasn't that way, you could bring up the talent through there. Because we all know there are really, really excellent drivers out there that just, they don't have the money to, and their parents can't buy the race team for them, and it's it's unfortunate.
So Brian, in your opinion, if you think ARCA and the K&N cars combined, do you think we would still have a K&N West series, or do you think the ARCA will go out west too?
I think they would travel all over. I think they do East Coast and West Coast, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. They're talking about, they've even said, ARCA has that. So the biggest problem that they have right now with bringing ARCA and K&N together is honestly the tires.
Okay.
Because General Tire, they
Yeah.
still have a contract with General Tire to 2020. And that's not going to
That's what I heard. I heard nothing was going to change until 2020, like everything's set in stone for 2019.
Yeah, and that's strictly because of the tire deal.
Okay.
So would they get rid of K&N West? I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to say, but that's just general consensus around the garage area is that they're going to run it.
That was one of the rumors I heard too, that they were going to combine them and be the K&N cars on the short tracks and the ARCA cars on the big tracks, which kind of makes sense, It's really going to be interesting to see,
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Well,
go ahead, Sam.
With that, we have our partners over at the ATQMRA who run the Hoosier tires. That they raced at Wall Stadium this past weekend. Joey Payne ended up winning that race.
Thank God.
And Ronnie Mullen didn't win that race for some reason. I didn't watch the race, but I seen Ronnie trying to beat some guy up in the pits. I don't know what it was over, but it was no different than any other Saturday night when Ronnie races there.
He was probably mad at himself.
Yep. So I never got the story. I even tried to watch some videos and try to figure out what he was mad about, and I never really saw anything.
Well,
how did
Joey ended up
Cole
winning
do?
the race. Cole ended up finishing 7th.
Okay.
Jeff Knott 2nd. Ryan Tidman 3rd. Our pal Joey Bailey, he's a huge fan of this poster behind me. Joey Bailey finished 4th. They're going to Mahoning Valley, I believe, next. Yes. September 15th. And Joey Bailey made a little Facebook event thing. So we're going to share that on our Facebook page to show Joey some appreciation. I didn't see the race. I know my cousin Eric Graham raced directly. He said it was a pretty good race. I heard it was a packed night at Wall Stadium Speedway.
It was. They said there was 2,200 people there.
That's excellent.
That's impressive.
2,200.
That's impressive.
And then and 3 demo derbies.
The Sportsman and 8-cylinder demo and a 4-cylinder demo.
That's correct. Absolutely correct. Although I heard the Sportsman ran like 30 laps before their first caution.
Yeah, the Sportsman race was actually really good.
The win went to Kyle Sisko.
Yeah, Kyle actually came up through and he ran great. I mean, he runs great in that car. And that car's like a 25-year-old home-built car, and it still runs great.
Scott, that totally reminds me of Danny Bone's car when he goes to Bowman.
Yeah.
And the old 659, it's the same thing. It's just built for there, and it just runs good.
Now, I will say, I was talking to Cisco's buddy Jake, who I work with a few days out of the week, and apparently they don't like the factory stocks all that much. They think that they're too slow and they're boring. And so my goal is to now get my car back together, and I'm going to put Kyle Cisco in it for at least a handful of practice laps so he can see. Because otherwise, we've had like the all-specs in our cars and stuff before, and they come back in and they're like, how the hell do you guys drive these things? Because they're not meant.
I let Eric Goodale take my car out down at Bronson Speedway in Florida. He came back in with the biggest smile on his face, and I just looked in the car. I said, "It's fun to drive, isn't it?" He's like, "Yeah, that was the most fun I ever had in a race car." I just looked at him and I said, Eric, you don't have to spend millions of dollars on a modified to have fun racing. You can run a street stock." He just laughed.
Speaking about
Ryan just said the same thing to me about Saturday night. How much fun he had.
Well, speaking about
Ryan was fun to race with. I got to race with him quite a bit. I did get a little bent up earlier in the race. I had a bad ball joint and stuff, but me and him ran side by side for a while, and he was a lot of fun to race with.
Me and him were debriefing a little bit when after the race, trying to get me ready for Turkey Derby. If I run, he was telling me, hey, it's like nothing you ever been in. It don't stop good. It don't turn good.
Well, like I tell everybody, I said a modified's built to race on an oval track. Our factory stocks are built to drive straight down the parkway. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we're trying to race with a car that's built for the highway.
Go ahead, Tim. I know you're trying to say something.
I was going to say, as we're on the factory stocks, there's rumors that you were going to race Turkey Derby. You kind of just said it before. So.
Yeah, but so anyway, oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say that's correct.
No, I want to. I want to race Turkey Derby. Last time I ran Turkey Derby, I think you spotted for me, Timmy. I think we actually run pretty good too, didn't we?
Yeah, if that was the modified, or was it dirt car last? You didn't do very well in the dirt car.
No, didn't do very well in the dirt car. But the year before that, in the modified, we were all right.
Yes.
Jimmy doesn't do well in the dirt car.
I want to say 2 weeks ago, or going into the factory stocks real quick. I have two mentions for Uncle Magic, Tim Magic. He got to meet Trump. They did that like bikers for Trump or whatever the hell it was thing, and they went to the golf course where Trump spends too much time. I don't care who you are. But yeah, so they showed up and Trump actually came out. He did pictures of them. So that was great. Unfortunately for Uncle Magic, Whitey bounced off the wall like on the first lap 2 weeks ago, and came back down, caught the right rear of Magic, sent him around and up into the sand barrels by the track exit. Luckily, that was most of the impact was on his left front wheel. As people keep posting stuff on Facebook and screwing up my audio.
That car was actually repaired for this weekend, but Tim had other plans to go to Atlantic City or something for the air show or something.
Right.
He did go to a race this weekend, and he was fine. The car was repaired.
But I'm luckily that impact wasn't in the door; it was on the left front or whatever. Right. So it was just tough to see. And I bring this up because I remember Tim O'Shea let me drive his car a while back, and it'd been like my first time in the car in like a while, and I got a hair loose coming off of 2, and my left front just barely touched Whitey's right rear. And, probably a little mark or whatever. And I went over and said, hey, sorry I got into it. Didn't, car got a little loose. And he started yelling at me. and saying, you got to learn how to drive these things. I'm like, dude, it's an entry-level division, and I haven't been in a car in a while. Like, I saved it. I didn't
should have told him, run, Whitey, run.
Yeah. But like,
so now you can go say the same thing to Whitey because he did the same thing to Tim.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying. I like him. I think I love that he still is racing and doing all this. I love that he came back from being very ill a few years ago. And he's able to get back in the car. I think that's great. But, to give me crap over, a dent or whatever, and then he goes and does way worse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I hold on to – I hold grudges. A few weeks prior to that, Rob Longo, known for I don't know how many championships in factory stocks, got a win on dirt. I don't know if anybody saw that. I think we did share
with the four-cylinder.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure if we mentioned it before. Let's see. So we had another big thing. We were trying to get Andrew Krause on the show because 2 weeks ago for the the first annual Cliff Krause Memorial, 127 lap modified race. And every other division ran 27 laps. And the racing all night was excellent. And it was just awesome.
No sportsman crashes?
The sportsmen were off. So there were no sportsman crashes. That's the only way you
Sportsmen are also off this weekend, I think. I think the sportsmen are off this weekend.
That's more encouraging.
Sportsmen start, they just don't know how to turn not into the wall. So if they start...
Scott.
Yeah.
If they start...
Did you see how bent up Jimmy's car was after the Cliff Krause race?
Yeah, and he was still going up through the pack.
Of course he was, but you saw the rear when he put it on Instagram. Jesus.
Well, I also, I know Blewett got banged up pretty good. Now, Krause, very early in the race, blew a power steering line, blew off the car. I mean, we saw smoke and everything coming up. I thought the motor went. I thought the motor, just blew and he was done. Went in, I think Jeff Lane loaned him a power steering line off of their car. They got the car.
Yeah, they actually pulled it right off of Jeff Lane's car and put it on Andrew's car.
Yeah, and Andrew got back out there, and somehow, and seriously, that put him to the back, and he had to work his way back up. So people, nobody handed this win to him. There was no.
It's a great story, and I'm glad Andrew won that race, but I just don't see how he wasn't a lap down. He was in the pits a lot. I know the yellow flags don't count in that situation, but I could have swore one time they went green and he wasn't on the racetrack. But
I think they.
Timmy, what was your vantage point of that
I
race?
don't like to get political on this show, but I kind of saw what Scott saw. There definitely was a green flag run that we went like a lap and a half, and he wasn't on the track. And I think what you were just going to get ready to say is they go back to the previous lap. So he might have been a half a lap down, technically.
But it also could be...
But anyway, he won. And like they said, good for him. He won. If it wasn't for Cliff Krause, we wouldn't be there. So...
Yeah,
he fought hard. He fought hard for that win too, because Derek Hopkinson was right on him, and Andrew did a little bit of mirror driving there for a few laps, but then he was able to pull away from Derek. So
I think Derek used up his tires at that point, and there's a kitty cat.
You're right.
There's Scott's cat.
But it was an incredible race, and I didn't think because now I will say Hopkinson did get into Krause a little bit going into one, and there was a good puff of smoke. He had him side, but Hopkinson let him
straighten out.
Let him save it. He didn't just drive through him.
Derek Hopkinson's too nice to race at Wall Stadium. I've only been there once this year, and I've seen it.
Oh man, but it was great. Seriously, and
the whole night was great. That was a great night of racing. The Cliff Krause race.
So I know that the purse for that race was $7,000 something, and 7,127. But then they had extra bonuses, which I even threw my own $27 in honor of Cliff.
It was 7,127 to win. That wasn't the purse. That was to win. The purse was a lot larger than that.
And then the bonuses went over 10,000 beyond that.
For the 50-50.
Right. Yeah. Grandpa blew it right at the last minute. He put in $2,800 towards the purse because he wanted to give each modified $100 that started the race, and 28 cars started the race. So he put in $2,800 there at the end. So thanks, Grandpa, for that.
And the racers came out. Every division had more cars that week than they had ever had.
Yeah,
previous.
Yeah, we had 24.
It was great fields through and through. And Neil Rutt the third, sorry, bud, but you get a little overshadowed by Andrew winning. Deal with it. You're used to coming up short. But
I don't even know who he is.
Yikes!
No, you're muted.
Anyway, Josh, you know what I thought was cool too. I looked at the people who did sponsor money and stuff like that. It wasn't only fans that sponsor money, but Bridgeport Speedway put in money, and Riverhead Speedway also put in money. I thought that was pretty cool. That area racetracks also put in money for that race.
Well, real quick, Alex McCullum won the Legend Car race. Neil Rutt III won his first 4-cylinder feature at Wall Stadium Speedway.
That's his first win on the big track ever. Yeah, and then he won again this past Saturday. And then
Andrew Krause won. Josh, let me do my job here, man.
Sorry, Sam.
Andrew Krause won the modified feature coming to this Saturday. Kyle Sisko won the Sportsman feature. Factory stocks go to Elliott Wall. Scott, you finished fourth. Nice job. 4-cylinder, Josh. Gosh, these names tonight.
What? Who?
Neil finished first in the 4-cylinder race. Michael Caro won the Legend Car feature. No surprise there. And we talked about Joey Payne winning the TQ race.
So much going on. I really want to do the top 3 rundown for all, which don't worry about it. I'm going to post some more on the Facebook page. But seriously, the racing is proving to be alive and well. Hopefully, it's not this hot this coming weekend.
It's supposed to cool off. It's supposed to be 76 degrees, but there is a chance of rain. It is hot. It's supposed to be 103 tomorrow up here. But come Friday, the temperature is supposed to drop, and Saturday it's only supposed to be 76 degrees.
Excuse me for a moment. I got to go put my Gatorade for tomorrow in the freezer now, not just the fridge, because holy crap.
The factory stocks have a 50-lapper, and Jeff Gratch has put out a press release, too, that I thought was pretty cool. They're discounting the prices to get in Wall this weekend. It's only $15 to get in this weekend, where it's normally $18. So I think Diane, by having that pack the track last week where it was $10 to get in and so many people came, maybe she's starting to think if she charges a little less, she gets more people. So it's only $15 to get in, and the modifieds are there. So
it's a Labor Day country night. Happy Labor Day for everyone. It says here you enjoy some country music under all the new lights. Gates open at 5 p.m., qualifying at 5:45. Features start at 7 o'clock. Modifieds 2 limited late model races and a 50-lap factory stock races 4 cylinders. $15 for adults. To do $8 for students, and 6 and under are always free. And that's per Wall Stadium Speedway.
Hey, Sam,
busy, it's country night. Make sure you wear your cowboy hat.
What's that, Brian?
One other thing from this weekend, short track racing. I know it doesn't have anything to really do with Wall Stadium, but personally, I just want to give a shout out to Bubba Pollard for going to the Oxford 250, starting 29th. Never being there, and becoming only the second Southerner to ever win that race. It's one of the biggest races in the country, and
it was a very good race.
Yeah, I don't know how much you guys follow super late model racing, but Bubba Pollard is the best short track racer in the country, and he proved it once again this weekend in Oxford.
Well, that's up for debate. I'm a pretty good short track racer myself.
oh boy!
Let's end the show, Josh. That is the most Scott statement, I think.
I got 2 questions for local. Sam, you didn't say anything about the demo derby. Do we know who won the demo derby?
Yeah, Norman Lane Jr. won the 8 cylinders, and Robert Lane won the 4 cylinders. There was only 3 8 cylinders there, but there was 14 or 15 4 cylinders, and they put on a real good demo derby.
And then, are you done with Wall Stadium, Sam?
I have something to say.
As of right now, I am. I don't know if I'll be back for Turkey Derby, but if I am.
For the recap for tonight.
Oh, yeah, I'm done. Okay. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, well, Hot Pockets, while we have you on here, I've asked the other 2. You have a little bit different story of how you became a spotter. We had Hirschman on here and Freddie, and obviously they weren't race car drivers. Now, you were a very good Southern modified driver at one time, and now you're a spotter. How did you become a driver to a spotter?
Well, the way I became the first person I ever spotted for was, obviously you're very familiar with Timmy, was obviously Jimmy Blewett when he first got into a modified, his very first, year at Wall Stadium. everybody thinks, Jimmy had this glamorous, path to stardom at Wall Stadium, but he didn't. It was just really me, him, and 2 other people, and I really had no choice but to spot for Jimmy because no one else wanted to do it. And, raced myself, ran tour rate, the Whalen Modified Tour and Southern Modified Tour, and just, money kind of dried up like everybody else, and, couldn't really afford to race no more. So I was really sitting around for about, 2 years doing nothing. And then I got a phone call from Donnie Leah, which I think you were a big part of setting that up for me, if I'm not mistaken, Timmy.
Yeah, that's true.
And Donnie called me up when he was driving the Mystic Missile, the 4-car on the tour, and, wanted me to come spot for him. So started spotting for him. We had a lot of success. And then I got the opportunity to move down south. And I moved down south and got hooked up with a lot of good people. You mentioned, Hirschman and Freddie, who were both, pivotal in helping me, get to where I am today to be able to be a full-time spotter and, not have to do anything else, just spot. And just, knowing the right people and, building a good reputation. And it's just really how it all came about. And, here we are. Now I'm a spotter.
And the number one question I'm always asked about you, besides where are you, you're not here on time, is how did you get the name Hot Pockets?
How did I get the name Hot Pockets? Well, everybody always comes up with these great elaborate stories, but, I was 13 years old, and my family decided I had to work in the junkyard, which would be Blewett's. And I didn't work in the junkyard per se. I worked up in the engine shop.
You worked where the air conditioner was.
I did work where the air conditioner was. That's right. So I worked for John Jr. in the engine shop. And if anybody knows John Jr., that was a great way to spend your, summer as a 13-year-old. Who wouldn't be excited about walking in the house and getting packs of cigarettes all day long? And on another hand, so every day, all they did for lunch was they just fed me Hot Pockets. That's it. That's all there was. That's ham and cheese Hot Pockets for months straight, every day for lunch.
Ham and cheese Hot Pockets.
That's 100% true. I know that to be true.
I do like the ham and
Not
cheese.
Not even good Hot Pockets.
I like the ham and cheese. Back off.
Ham and cheese Hot Pockets and Diet
Timmy
Coke.
could probably tell you. I came down into the junkyard one day and I told John III, I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, these guys, they're going to kill me with these Hot Pockets. I can't eat them for lunch. When you guys go to lunch today, come get me. And, he drove some, I don't know, it was probably an 84, Buick, no doors on it or nothing.
Yeah,
no
dealer plate on the dashboard, it goes.
Yeah, he drove up he kicked the door open. He said, hey, Hot Pockets, we're going to lunch. And, it's 20 years ago now, so I kind of just stuck.
Have you ate a Hot Pocket since?
No.
This reminds me of a story. I'm sorry, Sam. I know you got to go, but this reminds me of a story. I was working down in the junkyard where it was hot. Grandpa Blewett comes over to me and goes, Timmy, one of the goats just died. You got to go up and bury it. And it's 110 degrees. I'm like, I ain't gonna dig no hole. So I can start walking up the hill. I'm like, now what am I going to do? I got to dig this hole. It's 100 degrees out. I'm like, oh, Hot Pockets is in Flowtech. So I blast the door open in the Flowtech, and John Jr.'s like, what do you want? I'm like, Grandpa said Hot Pockets has to help me dig a hole. So Hot Pockets comes out, and we go up top of the hill. And I'm like, get a shovel. He's like, don't we need 2 shovels? I'm like, no, we need 1 shovel because I ain't digging no hole. So he digs this hole, digs it. I go, a little bit more, boy. A little bit more, boy. And he digs a hole. He's like, now what? I kick the goat in the hole, and I go, fill it back up. And that was the end of that story.
Just like that. See, I looked right. I said, now what? They land a big dust cloud, come flying up out of him. He said, now fill it back up. Yeah, that's the first quality time I ever got to spend with Tim Riggleman.
That sounds like it.
I'm not digging no hole.
Yeah.
All right, ready to wrap it up, guys. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we're about ready to go. You didn't know who Neil the third was, so you have to pay the price. We didn't really touch on Rowan Penning.
Good call.
Hanging up his helmet, as the thing says. I don't know much about that. It's also modified, so I really don't care.
I know a little bit about
it. Nobody's going to be too
Do you want to touch on that a little bit? Or?
I think we're going to get it. I want to find out more, and then we'll move into that for next week because we're really tight on time. Sam was supposed to be gone a half hour ago. He's got an assignment due by 6 a.m., Sam?
It happens. It's the college life.
Yeah, it sucks. And then he's got, like, work or something. I don't know, whatever else.
Ryan, I appreciate you coming on. It's been real fun. We got to have you on where it's not as busy so we get to learn some more Hot Pocket stories with Tim and y'all killing goats with one another.
Yeah, I could take a ride over to UNCC and check out that sweet Jimmy Johnson poster you got there on the wall.
Brian, you just won my heart over. I got some beer here. We'll have a good time.
Oh, yeah, you're old now. I forgot.
Don't tell Donna Ballard.
Oh, hey, Sam, is your girlfriend going to that school, or where does she go?
Yes. She goes here.
Oh, so you can get slide jobs.
Ooh.
Josh.
I did read an article, Hot Pockets, that there's a pizza place down by you that's making liver mush pizzas now.
Liver mush pizza?
Yeah, have you? We got to come down. I got to try one of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you do, Timmy. Yes, you do.
You guys can grab a couple liver mush pizzas and take it over to Sam's college and hang out with him for a little while.
Yeah.
No. Sitting there eating liver mush pizza.
You've had liver mush, Sam. Don't act like you haven't.
I see his face.
I've had it one time, and I already told you what it tastes like, and I won't tell you on air right now.
Speaking of that, we have to end the show.
We do. All right, so that said, what have we learned today? Scott? I forgot to write it down.
I forgot about it all over again, but I've never heard of liver mush in my life.
Oh, liver mush. It's like
no.
It's like scrapple.
Make them look it up.
Liver mush.
Make them look it up. No. We want them to look it up and anyway.
I learned Sam didn't change his dorm room one bit. Same poster, same blankets.
Did you at least wash?
The blankets are clean. Yes.
I learned.
What happens if I go in there with a black light, Sam?
I learned no matter how we try.
Don't shine it on that Jimmy Johnson poster.
You never do.
I'm sorry, Scott. I'm so sorry. Is that all, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, what did you learn today?
What did I learn? I learned that I had a good time and y'all got a good thing going. So I'd be happy to come back anytime you guys want me to.
Awesome. Thank you. Tim, what did you learn?
I learned that Sam's a closet fan for liver mush. He knows. Look at him. Look at his face. You know he's had it. Besides that, I have. Yeah, see.
Tizzy, what did you learn?
I learned.
Oh, time's up.
Okay.
Come on. We'll come back to you. Sam, what have you learned today?
Oh, you don't want to know what I learned today.
I'll tell you what, I know what I learned. I learned that Scott eats crackers like a parrot.
I'm gonna
just died on. I can't have bread. The only thing I have is crackers.
The price.
I've learned today that it's not worth staying up with you guys anymore because it doesn't end well for me. I've learned the difference between a K&N car and an ARCA car. I learned that skidding is a word. I learned that I have to have the dirty banana still because I finished my chocolate shake and Scott reminded me that I need to mix it with the banana one. I learned that Hot Pockets is pretty cool, and apparently we're coming over to UNCC to have a few beers. And that they put that weird crap on pizza that I like.
Oh, okay.
I have a picture of it right now.
All right. So Tizzy, you figure out what you learned yet?
Yeah, I learned what liver mush looks like.
Okay. Is that it?
No. And I learned that Wawa has really good smoothies.
No, from the show.
You learned how Hot Pockets got his name.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did learn that, and I learned how you used to have to bury goats.
No, Hot Pockets how you used to have Mary Goats. I took the I took the credit for it.
You were the teacher.
And I learned that Josh gets really mad if you don't know a certain driver.
Yep, correct.
And I also learned that Indy cars are very dangerous. Well, I actually already knew that. I know they can turn into fidget spinners.
There you go. Today I learned that Hot Pockets thinks spotting is easy. I also learned that Sam learned a new word. I learned that Sam thinks girls only wear flip-flops under their pants.
Josh.
If that's what you think, you don't even know the life of a girl.
I learned that Hot Pockets likes tea. And I learned that
only during F1 conversation.
And I also learned that they certainly dumped him. That's it. I'm sorry.
I'm done.
All right. Go to wall.
For the 109th time, I have Brian Cranmer, Hot Pockets, Tim and Tizzy Riggleman with Scott Riggleman, Josh Matthews. I am Sam Bauer Jr. If I don't see you next week, you know why. What's that, Tizzy?
I learned that Uncle Scott's on the homepage of Wall Stadium's website.
There you go.
Really?
Yeah.
How's bragging camp going?
There you go. Well, we will see you next week on the RPM Podcast. Like us on Facebook, follow us on iTunes, Twitter, and more at the RPM Podcast. Hashtag the RPM Podcast. Leave us a review on iTunes. Get a T-shirt. Hot Pockets. I hope to drop one of my extra T-shirts off coming your way up in Mooresville when I'm up there.
2X.
Easy, boy. Easy.
Oh, I'm staying at it. Okay.
Too much liver mush.
Yeah, too much liver mush.
Liver mush doesn't even look that bad.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week here on the RPM Podcast.
Bye.
Go to wall. Go to wall.
Go to wall. Thank you.
Wall.
Bye-bye.